Hey, everybody, it's Ron Johnson, and this is Locked On Sports Minnesota on the Locked On Podcast Network. And it's Friday. It's the Friday before Christmas, and we still had to give you guys some presents. We got to get locked in on this show. But what gifts are we going to give the fans today? I'm Ron Johnson. We got Sam Ekstrom. We got Julia Daniels and Reggie Wilson from Care 11. So, Sam, kick us off.
And did you want to do FanDuel, the FanDuel mention after this, after the topics, or?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. 3, 2. Yeah, huge Christmas Eve tilt between the Vikings and Lions. Is it a must-win for Minnesota?
And the Wolves got back on track after 86 combined points from Embiid and Tyrese Maxey. We'll talk about that.
And the Gophers to the Quick Lane Bowl. They're facing Bowling Green. We'll talk about what our predictions are for them in that one.
And I sent out a tweet last night. I asked the fans, I wanted to get the Twitterverse world to give us their thoughts. If you were Kirk Cousins and you could pick a trio, Diggs, Thielen, and Rudolph, or Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and TJ Hawkinson, who would you take? I'm extremely surprised by some of the Twitter votes thus far. Please go to Twitter. Check me out on 3Ron Johnson on Twitter if you want to continue the debate. We're going to take this up to kickoff of the Vikings-Lions game. But I'm very surprised at the early numbers. We'll get the panel's thoughts on that as well. Also, is Die Hard a Christmas movie? We'll talk about that. I have some thoughts on that because on our partner Peacock, the Dan Patrick Show, they also talked about just that movie, not a bunch, just that movie. And there was something that threw me off about that movie now that has kind of changed my mind about Die Hard not being a Christmas movie. I'll explain all that next on the roundtable. But I want everybody to know today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets. Yes, $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Just visit FanDuel.com/locked on to get started today. And I've done it. I hit it. It's worth it. Lakers covered over the Nuggets. That was like game 1 of the NBA playoffs last year. It worked for me. It can work for you. Make sure you guys check that out. Well, let's get started with the show. It's a lot of things going on in this world of sports. So let's start with you, Sam. What you got for us?
We got to talk Vikes. Vikings-Lions on Sunday. This is the biggest game of the year. Vikings are 7-7. They dropped to the 7th seed with the Rams win last night. Is it a must-win for Minnesota? We toss that phrase around kind of loosely in sports, must-win. And I'm here to say that, no, it's not a must-win. I think you need to win 2 of your final 3, and you are in the playoffs. I don't think you need to run the table. Would you prefer to get a win? Yes. But until you have a 9th loss, I don't think you're out of this thing. So I don't think it's a must-win. I think it's a desirable win. I think it is a cushion-building win. I don't think it's a must-win for Minnesota, but it would be awfully nice to get that at home and not have to sweat out Week 18 at Detroit, at Ford Field. But, guys, I'm calling it right now. I foresee in my crystal ball the Vikings and Lions playing 3 out of 4 weeks. I think they're meeting in the playoffs. I think that the probabilities and the playoff scenarios, it all points toward Vikings-Lions rematch in the wild card round at Ford Field. I think that's the inevitable result here.
Reggie.
No, Sam, where you're wrong is the NFL script writers are scripting Matthew Stafford going against his old team in Detroit. That's going to be what's happening. I think that they're gonna do Rams Lions just because the NFL script writers,
you're talking like a man who wants to be sent to Santa Clara, California on Care 11's budget rather than Detroit. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. That would be great. So here's the thing with the Vikings. They have to win one of these games against the Lions. So they might as well try to get it out of the way this weekend. And so, but the Lions, I said on Care 11 last night, the Lions are coming off probably their best win of the season. They just all out just beat down the Broncos. And a team with some steam like that, like you just have to it's just going to be tough. The last time that these two played each other, it was in Detroit, and Justin Jefferson went off 223 receiving yards. That was a franchise record, and he's healthy. Wasn't even on the injury report yesterday, so he's going to be ready to go. And they're going to need his best because this Lions team is dangerous. But what I think is interesting is I think that they could keep up with them just because, like, I'm still just not a believer, sorry, Ron, of the Lions defense. I'm just not. Like, they do enough and they've done enough, but we know, like, what the Broncos offense is. We saw it a few weeks ago. And so this Vikings offense, they push it, and they have a little bit more going on, even with the backup quarterback and Nick Mullins. And so I just think that they are well equipped to keep up with the Lions. Will they is the question.
Julia.
Is it a must win for Minnesota? No. I mean, this postseason picture is so blurry right now, but yes. So I would say yes at the same time, just to have a little more security at this time of year. The main thing I think this weekend is the Vikings just have to not beat themselves, right? That they've beat themselves in most of their losses this season. They've got the best chance of beating the Lions here on Sunday, right? Instead of going into their house and trying to do it then. I will say it's a weird part of the year too, because you get into where you're seeing teams for the second time. So the outcome, it's very unlikely for one of these teams to sweep a series like this, right? Mm-hmm. So, you lose this weekend, odds are you go to Detroit and you beat the Lions, because it's so hard to beat a team twice, even in like T-ball when you're a kid, right? So, I would just say, is it a must win? I would hope that they're going in with that mindset. But technically, no, it's not a must win this weekend, but I think that this will be the easiest option for them is to get a dub this weekend and to fix their mistakes. But Nick Mullins talked this week and said he was a lot more confident headed into this one, and it'll be nice to see JJ hopefully, back for another full game and see how these receivers pan out with him back out there for another full game. But yeah, mostly just they got to not beat themselves.
Is it a must-win game from a statistics standpoint? No, because other teams are going to lose. Other teams still have to play each other, so on and so forth. Is it a must-win game for your mental? Yes, it is. Like, if you look at the way the Packers handled the Lions, if you look at the way the Bears handled the Lions, the Bears, in 2 games, 5 interceptions on Jared Goff, 5. And one of the plays we're going to break down on the pregame show on Sunday, the Bears they do what Brian Flores does. Like, they do a lot of guys at the line of scrimmage. They do a lot of guys standing up. And Jared Goff, like, just threw balls sometimes that he shouldn't have thrown. He thought, like, the one I'm going to break down, he thought the guy was in. I don't know what he thought the guy was in. They're in cover 3 clearly, so there's no reason to throw a corner route in the cover 3. But he throws the corner route because he assumed that because number 6, which is the other safety, and number 9, the safety in the corner, 6 and 9 came, he assumed that nothing was there. So the Vikings, yes, it's a must win, because when you see Jared Goff do stuff like that, this is prime Brian Flores time. He hasn't played the Lions all year. The Lions have seen a defense like this in the Bears, but when they saw it, 5 interceptions. The guy only has 10 interceptions on the season. 5 of them are to the Bears. 50% of his worst throws are to the Bears. So if you're telling me the Bears defense is better than the Vikings defense, you are telling me that I need to just quit my job right now and just get off the show, because they're not better than the Vikings. And so what does that mean? It's a must win, because when you look at the way the Packers and the Bears did it, just for to say we're better and we're good and we can go into the playoffs, you got to do this. And it's Christmas. My kids are going to this game. Don't ruin Christmas for my kids. Please don't. We don't want to leave the stadium sad. I don't want to have to do the fan line and explaining why my kids are crying on Christmas Eve. Please, this is a must-win game, not just for the fans, not just for Whoville, for all of Minnesota. Yes, it is. Fun. You like the Whoville? Oh, by the way, I can't talk about this Whoville topic. This is more like this would be like Locked On Sports Friday Roundtable After Dark. But we have to talk about the Whoville thing I saw, I think on Instagram Reel or TikTok. I know Julia probably seen it. But there's some Whoville question marks about the Grinch's origin story of where he came from, who's his actual parents, so on and so forth. But
fan fiction for the Grinch?
Yes, for the Grinch.
I'm nervous about this topic.
That'll be Locked On After Dark. But we got to move on to the next one, because sticking with the Vikings thing, I tweeted out, I'm paying off the tease. I tweeted out a topic, and I just said, if you were Kirk Cousins, or Kirk Cousins is himself, and you want to give him the best chance to win games, and in their prime. Now, we know that Diggs, Thielen, and Rudolph all kind of intertwine, not exactly in their primes, but we got a good enough sample size to understand what they could be. Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and TJ Hawkinson. We haven't seen Jordan Addison and what he's going to be in his prime. So we're kind of speculating. But when I tweeted this out, I did not think it would go the way it was going. So far, and it's jumped in the last, it's been like 200 votes in the last, since we started the show. 90% of the fans right now, Jordan Addison, Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson, 90%. That is a huge number. Now, the comments are what's getting me. A lot of people are commenting, talking about Stephon Diggs's attitude and it matters and blah, blah. Just skill alone. So I'm going to start with you, Sam. Who would you take?
Yeah, so I cast a vote. I was one of the 1,000 people to vote, and I did cast my vote for Jefferson, Addison, and Hawkinson. But I think that it's closer than 90-10, like the percentages currently indicate. Mm-hmm. I think that Jefferson is preferable over Diggs, but it's not like a crazy margin. I mean, Jefferson's preferable to pretty much everybody, but Diggs was and is really, really good. Now, one question would be, are we looking at prime Diggs in Buffalo or prime Diggs in Minnesota? Because Diggs is even better in Buffalo than he was in Minnesota. I think
was he better in Buffalo, or does he just get the ball a lot? That's the other question.
He gets the ball a lot, but he struggled to get 1,000 yards in Minnesota. I mean, he had injury issues. True. He was shut down sometimes when he got double teamed. But for anyone thinking that Addison now is better than Thielen in his prime, not even close. I mean, Adam Thielen in 2017-18 was one of the best in the NFL, and I think there were definitely periods of time where he was in that converson. He's on the racial all-star team, like black versus white. Thielen is one of the receivers everybody wants to put on their team. Not touching that one. But you know what the kicker is? TJ Hawkinson. I think TJ Hawkinson, he tips the scales in favor of this current trio. He's got 900 plus yards this year. He's going over 1,000, and he almost had 1,000 last year. Kyle Rudolph maxed out at 840. Kyle Rudolph just wasn't as explosive, wasn't as versatile in what he could do. I think Hawkinson's a better blocker, better route runner. So I think that the tight end tips it. But if you're just looking at the wide receivers, I think it's fairly close.
Reggie.
Yeah, I go Jefferson, Addison, and TJ. And here's the reason why. After watching Justin Jefferson in that game against Buffalo last year, watching him in that game against Detroit last year, and watching him for the 2021 season, my first year on the Vikings beat, I am convinced he is one of the best wide receivers that I've ever seen.
True.
At this point already, was it fourth season for him? Still, I think he's one of the best that I've ever seen. And I've seen some dudes when I was in Cincinnati, I was there with AJ Green, and when AJ Green was still good before the injury happened. He was a dude.
Very underrated.
Yeah, he was a dude. And so, I've seen some guys, but man, as good as Diggs is, he's twitchy and his route running is great, but like Justin Jefferson is so smooth, man. He's like a Rolls Royce out there, and he's always open. No matter if he's covered, he's always open. We found that out in Buffalo. And so I think just by Justin Jefferson being in that category alone, but I will say, to your point, Sam, at his peak, Adam Thielen was a dog. Like, I was watching some of his old highlights, from before I got to Minnesota, and the dude can ball, man. Like the route running, the speed. Like I think he's got Addison beat in that regard. Now I think Addison is going to grow to be a really, really good receiver, but I think Thielen washes him on that one. But yeah, to your point, like the tight end definitely does tip the scales, but it's so interesting because I feel like TJ could be even better if he had a little bit more stickiness on his hands.
Yep.
Because you talk about he's almost at 1,000. Like he'd be over 1,000 right now if he catches some of the balls that he's dropped. And that was the thing when we did Superior Sports Talk, RIP. And Luke and I talked about TJ Hawkinson before he even got traded here. They were, the talk was like, oh man, he's really good, but like, sometimes he doesn't catch well. And I think that was the reason why the Lions were like, oh, we can, he's good, but we'll let him go. Now they got over Rudolph, and Rudolph was very good.
Bear with me. I have a theory that I've had running for a few years now that is yet to be proven wrong. I'm going to go with Jefferson Addison Hawkinson for a different reason than everyone else. So obviously we've all been covering sports for a while, but having come from a market where I was watching a lot of kids that were like 14 all the way till they were 18, to me, and just watching them grow up in the world that we have now of athletics, the athlete is so evolutionary that they're constantly getting better, right? So when we compare, in every sense, when we compare who's the best now to who was the best then, I'm always going to go with who's the best right now, because the game is different. It's faster. It's more intense. These athletes, it's so incredibly hard for athletes in high school nowadays to be multi-sport athletes because of how good you have to be at one sport in order to go play at the next level. So to me, I'm always going to go with who's playing right now that's the best, right? So you have to go with Justin Jefferson. The focus is better. You have to be fat, even though it's not even that far off, right? It's just a few years in between when those guys played together and when these guys are playing together. But what I've seen just in the years, because I haven't been sports reporting as a full-time job, but for 3.5 years now. But what I've seen even since then, I'd watch 14-year-olds that were better than some of the college guys that I went to college with. It was just wild what you saw from them. But that's always been my theory, is when we try to compare, it's the same thing when people talk about LeBron and Jay and these kind of things. And I'm always going to go with who's playing right now. I think also, if we're talking about, Ron, you said talking about these guys in their peak, and you talked about we have to speculate a little bit with Jordan Addison. I think just the little shine that he's shown us in JJ's absence, which has been a topic of conversation in the locker room this week, he has the potential to be better than Adam Thielen was in his prime. You get a little weight on that guy. I mean, he dragged, 3 dudes 10 yards this past week with his size that he's at right now. I think I would have to go with Jefferson Addison Hawkinson. I will agree with you, Reggie, though, that Hawk has got to be more consistent in catch, especially with his paycheck, right? He's got to catch a lot of the balls that he's dropped this year. So I think that's where you're kind of like, well, yeah, maybe. But at the end of the day, I'm always going to go with who's playing their best ball right now, because it's different. The game is constantly getting better, constantly getting more competitive. And along with that, the athletes are getting better and more competitive. So
One thing I will say, it also depends on what rules we're playing by. Because the rules now and some of these schemes now are tight end driven. A lot of these schemes now are you can't knock my receiver out coming across the middle driven. I will say Diggs and Thielen or Diggs and Jefferson, in my opinion, are a wash. Like they both are one-hand catch guys, 1,400-yard guys. Jefferson, I think, sets the bar a little higher because of what we've seen him do and what we think he can potentially get to. Again, like Chris Carter keeps saying, we can't give him the crown just yet because we haven't seen it over a 10-year span. We haven't seen it over a 12-year span. And so we're seeing glimpses of greatness. But like Reggie said, we saw that from A.J. Green. We've seen that from Chad Ochocinco. We've seen a lot of guys have some flashy couple years, and then we're like, man, what happened to that dude? Not saying that's going to be Justin Jefferson. We don't know what Stephon Diggs is going to look like, but he's already at year 9. And so when you look at Stephon Diggs and Jefferson, I'm going to wash that one out. I think Thielen is better than Addison. I don't think Addison's going to gain any weight, Julia. He's already told everybody, this is my way. This is me. I've been this way since I was whatever. He keeps bringing that up because people keep asking him, are you gonna gain some weight?
21, 22?
Are you going to eat some smoothies? Are you going to – some dudes
– growing till they're 25.
Snoop Dogg is 50, and he ain't gained a pound since. Like,
okay,
Jordan Addison is Snoop Dogg. He ain't gaining no weight. He going to be that size, just like Devontae Adams. I think Devontae Smith. I think those two are two peas in a pod. They're both going to be absolute beasts, Heisman or Biletnikoff winners. They're going to be that weight. That's going to be who they play, how they play. But I think they're still strong. They're good, like taking nothing away from guys like that. But I think Thielen was a better possession receiver and fit like the mode of underneath guy to Diggs' deep threat ability. When you look at Addison, I think Addison actually becomes the deep threat where Justin Jefferson, as he gets older, becomes more of the Chris Carter possession guy that's going to just make ridiculous one-hand catches, toe tap type stuff. It's going to take him right to the Hall of Fame. I think it's Rudy and TJ Hawkinson for me that changes the narrative. TJ Hawkinson with his, like I think Sam said it, headed towards 1,000 yards. Rudy capped off at 800. I think that's what a lot of people are leaning towards. I think, yes, he has to be consistent, but TJ Hawkinson, if he didn't have Justin Jefferson or like if he had more like a Deebo Samuels type like offense where he was George Kittle, he would easily be at 1,000 yards by now. Like he just doesn't have that offense where it's nonstop, quick game, fast, West Coast offense. Kevin O'Connell sometimes seems like he's always like trying to get a big play in there. I lean towards this new class of kids, but I think it's closer than people saying. But yeah, the 90-10 right now on Twitter, amazed at that, people. All right, but now we got to talk about the Wolves. Like the Wolves again, man, they beat the in-season tournament champions. So Reggie, what's going on with your Lakers, of course, lost, but what's going on with the Timberwolves?
Well, that was a good bounce back.
Sorry, but we have a word from our sponsors.
Before we get to Wolves Lakers, let me tell you about FanDuel and the deal that they've got going on there. We've been telling you about it for a bit. There is still time for you to take advantage of this Bet 5, get 150 deal at America's #1 sportsbook. Find a juicy $5 money line, bet it, win it, get $150 in bonus bets delivered straight to your account. Just bet 5 on the money line. If your team wins, you are swimming in FanDuel cash, and then you can sprinkle that around the NFL spreads, player props, over-unders. You can bet the NBA, NHL, college basketball, hundreds, maybe even thousands of ways to wager at FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Now's the best time to get in on the action before this deal expires. FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel.com/lockedon. Download that FanDuel Sportsbook app. Bet the NFL because FanDuel is an official partner of the National Football League.
All right, Reggie, what's going on with your Lakers? I know they lost to the Timberwolves.
Are you sure this time?
No. What's going on with the Timberwolves? No more reads.
So, as I was saying, I think it was a nice bounce back win from the Wolves. It was interesting just kind of seeing them earlier this week, well, really the night before. Man, Embiid just went on a heater, man, and he and Maxey are quite the 1-2 punch. They got rid of James Harden, and you're like, oh, they can't possibly be better, but like those two are different, and so they come off that, and then they don't get LeBron yesterday. He had an ankle. Really, it was probably just rest on the second night of a back-to-back, and they did what they were supposed to do. Honestly, what was interesting about it, and say what you want about the Lakers, but like without LeBron being out there, like I just thought that the Wolves would kind of take care of business a little bit more than they did. Like they really just let the Lakers just hang around a lot more than I thought that they would without having LeBron out there. And a big reason for that was Anthony Davis. In 38 minutes, he scored 31 points. Like he did what he was supposed to do, but didn't really get like the type of help that he should have gotten. You got Cam Reddish had only 8 points in 36 minutes. Vando had 14 minutes off the bench, no points, 4 boards. And so like, I think what happened was the Wolves had just enough production from the bench to outshine Austin Reeves' 18 points off the bench for the Lakers. And very well-rounded performance from the starters. You have 14 from Jaden, 15 from Rudy, 21 from Cat, 16 from Conley, 27 from Ant. Just a very, very efficient night from the starters. And I think that was the difference in the game. They made clutch shots. Cat made some big buckets down the stretch. Ant did what he does. Mike Conley made some big buckets down the stretch. And they got a heck of an effort from Jaden McDaniels. But how about Cat? Plus 12 when Cat was on the floor. That'll work. Mm-hmm. That'll work. And so I think the Wolves are a really good team. I think they've shown it. They've proven it. And really good teams beat teams that they're supposed to. And that's what happened last night.
Julia.
Yeah. Battle of the Anthonys, I guess. What I have written right here in my notes is, did the Lakers expect Anthony Davis to carry the whole team? It's hard to do something like that, especially against this Timberwolves team this year, right? One thing that I think that I think Ant's defense is very underrated as well. He puts up 27, so he's leading the team. But after it was like that first media timeout and Cat had that 3, and then Rudy and Ant are back there and they forced that shot clock violation. I just think people don't give him enough credit for the kind of defense that he plays too. Just because he's so showy offensively, right? But going off what you said, Reggie, the bench, I mean, we've talked about this for how many weeks now. The depth on this team is insane. Na is able to come in and offensively help out. Na able to defensively. Austin Reeves, after the first half, he came out in the second half and he shot off a few, but then they just kind of shut him down. But it's insane to me that the Timberwolves are still the only team in the league that hasn't lost back-to-back games this season, which is just wild when you're talking about it this late in December. But I also think, going back to Ant a little bit, is we talked about this at the beginning of the season, is Ant in back-to-backs usually, sometimes he's not very consistent when he's playing back-to-backs, but last night we really got to see that from him. So that was a positive note. There's a lot of positive notes. Still, like you said, no LeBron, so it's kind of a different game. But still keeping their streak alive of no back-to-back losses, which is hard to do, especially at that level. So impressive win, I'd say.
Yeah, I saw something that the Timberwolves have the best point differential coming off of a loss. Like they were plus like 15 or whatever, 15 and a half points. And they added to that. Here's where I'll go quick with it. I just think the Timberwolves right now they've hit a spot now, again, 21-6, just like the Celtics. So, they both have the, best deal in the world. Celtics have a 14-0 home record. So the Celtics are better at home than the Timberwolves. So I guess I'm going to say these are the best two teams in the NBA. When you look at, if this were the finals, Timberwolves versus Celtics, Jason Tatum, can Anthony Edwards slow Jason Tatum down? That's always going to be the question. Like, you watch Jason Tatum versus the Warriors, he went off. Like, he was just, I mean, when he gets it in the post and he knows he has a small matchup like Steph Curry, he's just going to go to work. He has a nice step back long shot. And then when you watch the Timberwolves play, it's more of a team game, you know, and I think that's the big difference. You know, like, I feel like the Timberwolves have become more of a team, you know, oriented team, like the Bucks, for instance. You know, when they got rid of Drew Holiday, everybody talked about that, and they added Damian Lillard. Well, they're 21-7. So clearly Damian Lillard is having fun with this. He is no longer a trailblazer. So it can work. But this, you know, big three, I guess you want to call it, two of them were organically drafted, Anthony Edwards and Karl-Anthony Towns. I just think they're hitting their stride. Like, they are playing well together. You see them fitting in together. I think it was in the first quarter, there was 2 defensive opportunities for Anthony Edwards to have alley-oops. One, Naz Reid, pass the ball. If you're bringing it up on a fast break, pass it, because you cannot throw alley-oops. Like, your alley-oop is suspect. You can see Anthony Edwards even look at him and laugh like, dude, what was that?
Yeah, he waited so long to throw it. It was like, bro, toss it up there. Do
and
it.
then it just happened right before that. So it's like, you just watched, was it Slow-Mo who threw the first one?
That was Nikhil.
Or was it Nikhil Alexander-Walker?
Yeah.
Threw it, like, he threw it perfect timing. He kind of waited, let the defender get to a, you know, no man's land. You either got to defend my layup or you just got to let this dude dunk on your head. Like, Naz Reid got like under the basket on the other side, then tries to throw. Like, dude, give the ball up. Pass it Anthony Edwards early. Let him just go fast as he can. Maybe he can get it back to you. Like, that should have been one of those drills when we're in high school. Coach says, no, ball don't touch the ground. Just pass it and shuffle down the court. Like, that's what I expect out of Naz Reid next time. But this team just plays well together. Like, the fact that they're turning defense into points, that's the other key. Like, you watch Rudy Gobert, you watch Anthony, like, even Anthony Davis, and I love Julia saying that. You know, Anthony Davis, when you watch him just be a bully, like, these refs let a lot of stuff go too, by the way. But when he just throws his shoulder into Rudy Gobert, and Rudy Gobert kind of takes it like, and then he's like, wait, let me use my long ass arms and swipe the ball away at least, because I can't defend it any other way. And Anthony Davis was frustrated. He's like, man, come on. Like, and he knows it's not a foul. You can see him saying like he wanted a foul, but then he realized that wasn't no foul. Dude just got the ball from me. But he's just running down the court, shaking his head. Like, that's when you're playing well as a team. When you can slow down Anthony Davis. Now, again, I don't know if Bron, like, how much he would have contributed to that and where does he fit in? Like, who guards LeBron? Maybe it's Naz Reid, I guess. But that team played well. They are now the in-season tournament champions, in my opinion. I think they beat the Pacers. They have now beat the Lakers. The Timberwolves are the in-season tournament champions. You can't change my mind. But Sam, what do you think?
I would like to take 60 seconds to compare D'Angelo Russell and Mike Conley for the umpteenth time. The two guys that are associated forever in the trade last year. Wolves get Conley, Lakers get Russell. Conley just injects himself into every play. He makes the right decisions, and he's efficient. So he goes for 16 and 8 last night. D'Angelo Russell goes for 17 and 8. So you might look at the box score and say, well, who really had the greater impact? Well, D'Angelo Russell shoots 7 of 19, and he got all of his points when the game was out of hand. Mike Conley willed the Wolves to victory in the fourth quarter, 6 of 9 shooting with 16 points. One of these guys was clearly more efficient. D'Angelo Russell is a turnstile on the other end. Sorry, Reggie, but it's true. He admitted it after the game. He said, yeah, I don't really, not a defense guy. I got to hit shots to have an impact. So thank you, Connolly, for bringing in Conley, because that is my favorite Christmas present that the Wolves have.
Christmas presents. There you go. I was waiting for you to tie it in, Michael Bublé. Sam, it is
dreaming.
It is piano
of a white or foggy, if you're in Minneapolis, Christmas
with rain. Rainy,
also,
foggy.
Sam, I don't know why you were apologizing to me. Look, D'Lo makes me pull my hair out as a Laker. That was something. I went from covering him when he was a Wolf to now he's on my favorite basketball team, and it's an experience.
Well, he just was a non-factor like all night. I couldn't believe how invisible he was for most of that game.
Yeah,
and then he hit like 2 threes
really
toward the end.
I'm about to say it comes down to during the game efficiency. Like during the game, he's not efficient. Like he shoots the ball at the wrong time. He doesn't understand. Like, I mean, everybody who plays basketball knows you give it to the hot hand. Even every sport, I mean, football. If Justin Jefferson makes 4 one-handed catches, you just throw it to him for no reason and just see what happens. D'Angelo Russell does not play within the flow of the game like that. Mike Conley does. D'Angelo Russell doesn't. So I do like the different trade-off. The one thing I will say, though, is D'Lo every once in a while is going to give you 35, whereas Conley probably won't. But how does that 35 come? Lord only knows. You got to go through, like my grandma used to say, you got to kiss a couple frogs to find your prince. That's what some of those D'Lo games are. It's some frog games out there. Then eventually it's like, oh, my prince to the king, James. See, tied that in there. But now we got to do really quick. We got to do the Gophers bowl game prediction for Tuesday. It's going to be a Cole Kramer show. The kid that wants to move to Arizona and live with his family and walk out of the sunset. He said, I'm a Eden Prairie kid, grew up in Minnesota, grew up watching Minnesota bowl games. He's like, this is a storybook ending for me. But let's make a prediction on this game, Julia. What you think? What you got for us?
The Quick Lane Bowl, December 26th, Bowling Green. Do we know if he actually got that 30,000?
He didn't. He got something. He got something, but not 30.
Well, I mean, this is a game where it's like, oh, the Gophers should win, right? But I mean, Bowling Green's coming off a, decent end to their season. They won 4 of their last 5. So they're a good team. We'll see what Cole Kramer, third string quarterback. The thing that I would be worried about as a Gopher fan is, towards the end of the season, obviously, PJ was under a lot of fire, right? And everyone's like, what's going on? They lose all these games. They were in the conversation for, being in the Big Ten championship, and then they just kind of blow it there at the end. But now he's had this great signing day, and he's gotten all these great recruits that it's like, I hope he reverts back to how the end of the season went and wants to cap it off with a win, right? I also think for the Gophers, this is a must-win game because you have all these great recruits, but it's different nowadays with the transfer portal in that you're not done advertising to them. They need to see you win this bowl game. You have a guy like Coy Parrish coming in. He's a top recruit in the nation. He stuck with you. You've got a few other top recruits in the nation that stuck with you. For this, I would say Gophers should win. Gophers need to win this one, despite it not meaning a whole lot of anything. And I'm hoping that Cole Kramer, wants to walk off in the sunset with a dub. We'll see how it goes though, because it is the Gophers. So I'm not going to say I'm confident in a win for them, but I'm saying that it's a should win for them.
Let's go, Sam. What you got?
If a bowl game happens and nobody watches it, did it actually happen? A Tuesday afternoon Quick Lane Bowl in Detroit, a 5-7 team against a MAC. Is it MAC? Are they part of the MACtion conference?
MACtion, baby.
MACtion, yeah. I've got a 20-7 final score. Gophers will win. They'll rush for 1,000,000 yards. Kramer will throw it 11 times, and we will all move on with our lives after it's over.
Reggie.
Can it just be like a spontaneous combustion at the site of the game, and then the game just doesn't happen? That's really what I'm thinking about. I think the excitement is more towards the future, especially if you saw PJ Fleck's press conference this week on signing day. He was in quite a form. I wouldn't say rare form because I feel like it's PJ, so he was in PJ form, I guess I would say. We got all kinds of quips and one-liners from him this week. So I think I don't really even know or really even care about the bowl game. I think we're looking towards the future. He's excited about, he got Coy Parrish and 26 new players to get infused into this boat to row toward the future. That's what we're looking towards. The game, whatever.
So I'm going to go quick with this one. I just think this is going to be a storybook Cole Kramer. So what people forget about Cole Kramer is he was the wildcat quarterback for behind Tanner Morgan. He would come in just to run the ball, just to run the RPO. And so I think we're going to get like a true RPO type of quarterback. Like I think they're going to give him some short throws. They're going to try to showcase their tight end and Brevin Spanford and help out his draft status. We're going to see the running backs get a chance to really show out. I don't know if Darius Taylor's going to play or not, but he's had enough time now that ankle should be good enough to go. But at the same time, you don't want to risk your future on a bowl game that doesn't really matter. And so when you think about this matters from a recruiting standpoint, from a standpoint of getting more time with the players, because if they had not made a bowl game, they would have to cease communications with their players as far as they can only lift, and then everything else has to be captain's practices. Now PJ gets actual practices with these freshmen, with these players that stuck around and didn't hit the transfer portal. So I think that you're going to see like a run heavy game, a little bit of play action, nothing too much down the field, but Cole Kramer running the ball. I'm pretty sure he's going to have a rushing touchdown. Like that's going to be my prediction. He's going to have a touchdown on the ground. Cole Kramer, whether it's some type of play action rollout or he's just going to keep it on an RPO and run it in himself, Cole Kramer will have a touchdown in the bowl game versus Bowling Green. I don't know win or losers, but I know Cole Kramer is going to have a rushing touchdown because who else wouldn't want to go out that way? That's the best way to go. Then he gets on a plane, goes to Arizona, and lives for the history of his life with his wife. Happily ever after. And then he'll get to tell his kids one day, like, I won the Quick Lane Bowl my senior year in Detroit. I was on the plane to Arizona, and they called me on the plane phone and said, Cole, jump back on the plane and come back to Minnesota. Ethan Kellick-Manis has hit the transfer portal. We need you. And they sent the bat signal out. And then here he comes back on a white plane, not a white horse, but a white plane. Rides back into Minnesota. He comes and they're going to fly to Detroit. He's going to win a bowl game on the 26th. Yep, they're going to win. Cole Kramer's going to win it.
Okay, Uncle Rico.
When he tells his grandkids, it'll be the Rose Bowl that he came back to win.
So in closing, we got to get this one quick one in real quick, people. We got to close the show out. Make a case for the best Christmas movie. Sam, I'll start with you.
I will be quick because there really isn't much debate. I don't have to make a case for It's a Wonderful Life, the greatest Christmas movie of all time. It was filmmaking before its time, great script writing, great acting, wonderful story, emotional ending. I cry every time. I'll be watching it on Sunday night after the Vikings game, which will probably also make me shed tears. I'll carry that over into Donna Reed and Jimmy Stewart's beautiful story. It's a Wonderful Life.
Julia.
The Grinch.
Which one?
The one with Jim Carrey.
No.
I love the real life one. It's a tradition. My sister and I have the entire script memorized. It's a movie for everybody. It has adult humor. It's for kids too. It's wonderful. I love Seuss World at Universal Orlando at Christmas time because it's just Whoville at Christmas. I love everything about it. I think it's hilarious. It's my favorite Christmas movie.
Reggie.
I go Home Alone 2.
Home
Alone 2. That's anytime like growing up, like Christmas season, Home Alone 1, 2, 3, even sometimes. Like those are my go-tos. But you know what? Sneaky backdoor pick here. Ron, you'll appreciate this. Friday After Next.
That is a sneaky one. That's a sneaky one. I can't even say Cat Williams' line, but he does do a Christmas line in there.
It's the best, man. It's the best.
I can't even say it on TV. Can't say it.
It's the
Cat
best.
Williams has a great Christmas line when he pulls up in his car. Everything must go. Maybe even you. That's another one for Locked On After Dark.
After Dark.
You know what? For me, I'm kind of torn between Home Alone 1 because it's just nostalgic and like
it's
all
the best,
the like
man.
all the lines from it, all the things from it. But Elf with Will Ferrell for me too. Like that one is a classic, funny one. Just the fact that he actually like seeing the behind the scenes of him having to go into these buildings where some people know he's coming and some people don't. So they kind of surprised some people as he was like walking through New York. with his outfit. So I'm starting to see, like, they're starting to show some of that stuff, like the behind the scenes of him just walking into random offices and like trying to get people's reactions of Will Ferrell as an elf. Like, even that, like him to just pull out his Saturday Night Live, like skit, kind of like let's see what happens. Just go in there, see what people do, see how they react. We have no lines for you. So like a lot of his lines, which clearly now that you listen to him, nobody can write that, because some of the stuff he does and says, it's like, wait a minute, what? Where'd you get that from? Like, even like, I mean, but even Ricky Bobby, I know it's not a Christmas movie, but even like his Ricky Bobby stuff to me, like that still is some of the best stuff ever. So by the way, paying off the tease, Die Hard on Dan Patrick's show on Peacock. This is why people are now saying it's not a Christmas movie. So I know a lot of people saying it is, because it does take place. There's some Christmas themes to it. It was a Christmas party when his wife got kidnapped. It was released in July. Like when it originally released, it hit the movie theaters in July. So can we call a Christmas movie if Hollywood releases it in July? 10 seconds. Is a July movie a Christmas movie, Sam?
No, but I also haven't seen it, so I can't comment.
Oh my goodness. You haven't seen Die Hard? Oh, Reggie.
No, man. I'm sorry. I can't do it.
Julia.
I've only seen it once, but they did all kinds of, I feel like, weird.
It comes on TV like every day. Sam, when it's on TV, Sam, I'm gonna text you to just turn on TNT, and you just need to watch it. Like,
well, with commercials like a Neanderthal.
So I don't know. For me, like, I'm
on Netflix. It's on Netflix, I'm pretty sure.
I'm a weird person that gets in like moods at different times of the year. So like Die Hard is a movie I would watch in July because I'm like tired of the summertime and I just want a little Christmas feel without watching like an actual Christmas movie. So it's not one that I keep in my list of Christmas movies. Reggie knows I have my list of Christmas movies that I have to watch at Christmas time. It's not part of my list.
It's kind of a Christmas movie. But
the
Dan
best
Patrick,
July Christmas movie of all time.
He threw a wrench in the game when the back row looked it up, and it actually released July of 1988. I was 8 years old because my birthday was in May, so I just turned 8, and I saw it. I cannot believe it was 19. I will say there's not a lot of there's no cursing in it really, but there's a lot of like death and shooting and stuff like that, because that's what happens in Die Hard. I mean, it's in the title. You're gonna die hard. And so there's some hard deaths. There's some hard deaths in that movie. But Christmas did not die. And it's Jesus is the reason for the season, people. Have a great Christmas. Have a great Vikings game, hopefully. And hopefully they don't ruin your Christmas Eve. I'm Ron Johnson, as Reggie Wilson, Julia Dance, Sam Ekstrom. Make sure you guys know you can get 24/7 Locked On Sports Minnesota on the YouTube channel. Just make sure you subscribe to it. You can get Vikings, Wild, Wolves. You can get Viking, Wilds, Wolves, and Gophers. Of course, you can get links, whatever you want. We're going to talk about all the sports in Minnesota. And right now, Timberwolves are taking the show. Have a great weekend, people. Merry Christmas.